Yes, Mr. Oni. Let's go
With
ahead.
your permission, we will start, sir.
Yes.
Very good afternoon to all of you. And on behalf of FIEO and India Seated, I extend my warm welcome to all of our esteemed speakers and participants of this webinar on managing supply chain uncertainty and its cost to Exim Cargo. The focus of the event today is port users are facing a brunt of extraordinary delays due to congestions at various ports, last mile connectivity, and many other issues coupled with unavailability of empties and sky-high ocean freight rates. The delays are also not only creating uncertainty in movement of cargo, but also increasing the associated cost. This webinar is a platform to understand the perspectives of stakeholders and work towards a way to reduce the uncertainty and cost. To address the issues we have with us, Shiyan Shivasalam is retired former special secretary logistic. So he's the man on master in logistic, and Mr. P. Ravindranath is chairman Chennai Porters. He will be joining shortly because of some connectivity issue. Dr. Ajay Sai, Director General and CEO of FIEO. Mr. Israr Ahmad, Regional Chairman, FIEO Southern Region. Mr. T.S. Aluwalia, Managing Committee Member of FIEO. Mr. Krishna Kumar, Vice President, Southern Region, MSC Shipping. And Mr. Parthasarathi Gopalan, Area General Manager, South and East of India, CMA CGM. Due to constraints of time, I'm not introducing or reading out the profile of the speakers because all of them are well acknowledged professionals and senior bureaucrats in our industry and well known to all the trade. With this, I invite our regional chairman, Mr. Israr Ahmad, to deliver his welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Uni. Good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to this webinar that we have today. It is an extremely important subject, as we all know, and I think from the numbers itself, you can see that it keeps going up. We have more than 300 participants today, and I think we look forward to having even more. First of all, I'd like to thank Shri N. Sivasalam, sir. He has now retired as a former Special Secretary for Logistics. Was amazing. I met him a year ago for the first time during the logistic seminar at Coimbatore, sir, and he impressed us all with his knowledge, with his vision. He was extremely verbal, and he would express himself well, and he would not be afraid to say what the government needs to do, what the carriers need to do, and he would be very upright and say it. And this is what was amazing about him, and he has a good understanding, and so that is why we actually wanted him here, and he kindly obliged. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. We have also Mr. Ravindran, IRTS, Chairman, Chennai Port Trust. I don't know if he's joined or he will be joining soon. I remember meeting him about a year and a half ago when there was a strike, a container transport strike in Chennai. And I met him on a Sunday morning at his office. He had almost 30 people with him during conducting meetings as well. So he is extremely active and has been very positive towards the export community, has been very helpful. And I remember that problem was resolved by him, thanks to him stepping in, calling the Chennai police and everyone, and then trying to resolve that. And that is what we needed. And so thank you, sir, again for joining. I have my friend, Mr. Krishna Kumar, the Vice President of MSC. He has been, I think they have had sleepless nights along with, I'm sure, my other friend, Mr. Parthasari Gopalan as well, who is from CGMA. They've all had sleepless nights because of the demands that are there from the exporters, from the export community, and from the importers, asking them for space. I'm sure more than the secretaries now, people are behind you to get our containers in. So that is how it is. And of course, we have Mr. T.S. Aluwalia ji, who I thank you so much, sir, for the minute I asked him, he said, look, I won't be here, sir, but I'll be in Canada, but I will definitely join. So, sir, I think it must be very early in the morning. Thank you so much for joining. And he has knowledge of logistics, anything to do about logistics. So we are really thankful and grateful for him joining today. Dr. Ajay Sahai, the walking encyclopedia, no matter which subject. So he is also here. Thank you. And I'd like to also my Southern Region team, who have been extremely helpful in setting up this, and not only this, but a lot of other seminars. And and it comes to, let me just get back to it. When the Commerce Minister, I remember when he took over, the first thing that he did raise was about logistic costs.
Sir, your bandwidth is very low. So if you can switch off the video and speak.
Yeah, sorry.
I think
some connectivity issues was there, sir. Now back. Hello?
Yeah, please, sir. Please.
Yeah, sorry.
You are audible.
Thank you, sir. So, sorry, I had some connectivity issues. So, when the Commerce Minister had taken over, he had raised the point about logistic cost reduction and for exporters especially. And I remember it was about 12% India was averaging in logistic costs. And then eventually we would like to see it at about 7% is what we were mentioning. Nobody knew about the importance of this, including the exporters, or even, I would say, even the minister. After this COVID, the kind of impact that logistics and the logistic costs have had on our businesses is mind-boggling. I mean, I would say logistics is the top three biggest issues that today the exporters are facing, if not probably the single biggest. With COVID, customers, suppliers are running limited capacities. Time is critical, timing is very critical. And also with the liquidity having evaporated due to COVID reasons and all our businesses having liquidity issues, we don't have the stocks, we don't have the buffers. And efficiency of our supply chain is critical. The low reliability of vessels, the lack of equipment, whether it is containers, long transit times, increase of logistic cost, all these have severely affected exporters, not only in India, but actually around the world. Inflation, I would say, trends that you are seeing, one of the main causes of it is also the logistic disruption that you are seeing. I mean, right from steel prices and the cost of steel going up, when the iron ore or whatever it is, or even the chemicals, everything we are seeing an increase in pricing. And for the lack of availability and everything, inflation itself is being affected badly due to the logistics disruption that we are seeing. You know, it's easy to blame the freight people, saying, oh, the freight forwarders or the liners are a problem, but actually they are also facing quite a lot of issues. And I think we need to look at it from their side as well, where they are having to adjust with so many challenges for example, with port congestions, with erratic demand that is there from different ports. Then there are also the government policies around the world which are changing with regards to COVID. You saw lockdowns happening in different parts of the world, especially now recently in the UK. You saw what a big disruption we had in FlexiStore and in other ports. So these are all issues and challenges that they are also facing. So they're not having an easy time either. So how can the government, the service providers, the export communities look to help to address these challenges and to quickly return back to normal? This is what we are trying to see today. There are so many questions that people have asked. Can we bring mother vessels to Indian ports, more mother vessels than what we have, especially to the southern side? Do we need more container manufacturers so that we can have more containers made in India itself? What about reduction of port costs, better connectivity? The list goes on. Let's listen today to, I think we have very eminent members in the panel. So I am really looking forward to having a great session today to discuss the various topics that we have. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and over back to you, Mr. Umi. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening welcome address. Now I invite Dr. Ajay Sahai, DG and CEO of FIEO, who will be talking about issues and challenges of the trade. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Unni. Mr. M. Siusalam, former secretary, an extremely thorough, objective, forthright, and proactive officer, very rare trait in bureaucrat these days. The chairman of Chennai Port Trust, Mr. Ravindran, the representative of MSC, Mr. Krishna Kumar, the representative of CGMA, Mr. Paz Sati, my young regional chairman, Mr. Israr Ahmed, our convener of Shipping and Logistics, Mr. T.S. Ahluwalia, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. We all know that different vaccines have been developed in the world, and many of the countries have taken into massive vaccination. And therefore, we all have entered 2021 with much hope and aspiration. But still, we have a long way to go. The situation will not normalize soon. But the worst is definitely over, and now onwards we can look for a recovery, though of course with some hiccups time and again. In fact, the global recovery was started from the third quarter, as can be seen by the recent figure released by the UNCTAD. The global trade declined by 19.5% in the second quarter, and the contraction was reduced to just 4.5% in the third quarter and to 3% in the fourth quarter. Now we are expecting a total contraction of 7% in 2020, which is much better than the best expectation by the WTO. When post-COVID in May, WTO forecasted that global trade will contract between 13 to 32%. And now we are roughly looking at a figure of 7%. In line with those developments, Indian exports have also recovered. We started with a decline of 60% in the month of April. We recovered to 35% in May. And recent data for December shows a growth of 0.14%. More reassuring has been the data of the first fortnight of January, which is showing around 11% growth in exports. The imports are also subdued, and this may be one of very few years where we may have a trade surplus if we look into both goods and services, imports and exports. In fact, till December, we have a surplus of around 4 billion, including goods and services together. So far, Indian exports are concerned, we have not done well, and therefore we may end this year with an export of around $280 to $285 billion. But I'm pretty confident that we should look at increasing export to around $350 billion in next financial year. This is definitely challengeable, but achievable. The encouraging demands are now being witnessed in many sectors, including pharma, medical and diagnostic equipment, technical textiles, networking products, electronics, food, cereals, plastics, iron and steel. And I think with the lockdown now being relaxed slowly in many countries of the Europe, the labor-intensive sector will also be bouncing back. So I think so far as the demand is concerned, we are definitely on much better footing at this point of time. But at the same time, I think Indian exports should also look into the profile of global imports. Global import is dominated by electrical and electronics, machinery and automobile sector. These three account for roughly 35% of the global imports with a market size of around 6,700 billion. In this segment, our share is just 0.8%, though our overall share in the world export is around 1.7 billion. We also import goods worth around over $100 billion in these segments. And it is good that now government has brought the productivity linked incentive scheme covering the sector, and therefore we should look into building our industrial base, not only to stem imports, but also look into increasing exports opportunity. I think our bigger challenge lies on the supply side, and we need to look into providing an ecosystem which not only makes Indian exports competitive, but also help us to move towards our milestone of $1 trillion by 2025. As told by the regional chairman, the liquidity is one of the key concerns, particularly the SME sector. They have went through lockdown, though the emergency credit linked scheme has helped many of them, but unfortunately it has not covered those who were not having any outstanding credit as on 29 February 2020. And many of the SMEs, they definitely pool their own resources. They were not requiring any support from the bank during the pre-COVID period, but after the post-COVID period, they are equally in need of liquidity. And I think government needs to look into whether they can relax some of the conditions to increase the flow of credit to this segment. A lot of exporters' money is still stuck up with the government, maybe in the form of GST refund, duty drawback, MSMEs credit, and even the MEIS and SEIS schemes. In fact, both in respect of merchandise export scheme and services export scheme, the claims have not been filed for 2019-20 and 2020-21. This is an issue which we are taking up with the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Finance, and we are hopeful that before the budget or just after the budget, these claims may be allowed to be given back to the export sector. There is related issue of uncertainty, and I think uncertainty is one of the biggest challenges which the exporters are facing. We all know that US has targeted some of the schemes of the government of India. What would be the shape of the foreign trade policy, which is likely to be unveiled on 31st of March 2021? If some of the major schemes like EOU, SCZ or EPCG, if they are remodeled or they are removed, what will the shape of things to come? It is good that government has now removed the MEI scheme and replaced it by the ROTTEP scheme, but unfortunately the rates have not been announced. How the government expect the export sector to go for the costing of their businesses unless the rates are known? We have requested the finance minister to release all the rate by 31st of January so that exporter firm up their contracts and then they can bring the exports back on track. So far as the credit availability is concerned, I think Reserve Bank of India has done a great thing by bringing all exporter under the priority sector lending, removing the cap of 100 crore turnover. And this has definitely increased the liquidity. So far as the cost of credit is concerned, for the MSME manufacturer, the interest equalization scheme has provided much cushion, and I'm pretty sure that this scheme should continue in times to come. As told by the regional chairman, we all know that logistics has been one of the key concerns of the exporter, but of late, this has become a huge stumbling block for exports. The freights have gone skyrocketed, containers are not available, there has been frequent shutout. And let me add that this is not something which is exclusive to India, though of course in case of India with reduced imports and increasing commodity export, the situation has further aggravated. The root cause lies in that large lines were not calling on the transshipment ports. With the result, there has been huge stockpiling at these ports. The small feeders which have been used have definitely do not have the economy of scale, increasing the freight also. So far as the containers availability is concerned, we are in constant dialogue with Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Shipping, and many initiatives have been taken by the government to somehow ease the pressure. We are thankful to the shipping lines also who have brought empty containers, particularly on the western coast. We request them to also supply more containers on the eastern coast. Indian Railway has agreed to provide container free of cost, taking from the gateway port to the hinterland to ICDs and CFS. We are also requesting the government that over 50,000 containers which have been stuck up with different enforcement agencies, if the goods can be offloaded in the warehouse, these containers can also augment the supply. And as a long-term roadmap, we need to look into container manufacturing in our country. Today, China is manufacturing over 95% of the containers globally. When you're bringing those containers into India, the cost goes up by around 40 to 45%. It is good that government has now taken a call and they are looking into providing manufacturing of container at Bhavnagar. There are many shipyards who have the necessary expertise and the area for building of the container. If that can be utilized, it will definitely help a lot. I will request all stakeholders to realize that each one of us are going through a rough patch, and therefore the time has not come where we can recover our losses by increasing the prices or creating artificiality in the unavailability of the containers or otherwise. I think if we all pool our resources together, each one of us will recover our losses when the situation improves. I think this is also a time where we should look into why India cannot have a world-class shipping line. We are remitting close to $65 billion as transport services charge every year, which is 1/3 of India's total import services bill. Government is now privatizing Shipping Corporation of India, and if private player can definitely look into the opportunity, a market of $30 to $45 billion will be immediately available to them. So we have captive market in place. Let me not take much time. Let me sum up by saying that government should look into the supply side challenges of export sector, leaving the exporter to look into the demand issue. This will be a partnership of win-win situation, and it will definitely bring export back on track. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for highlighting concerns of exporters and global trade scenario. Now I request Mr. N. Sivasalam for share his thought on the subject. Over to you, sir.
First of all, let me tell you, I'm extremely pleased to be back with FIEO. This is the first time I'm participating in a conference organized by FIEO, and all our friends from the logistics trade with whom I worked so very closely. And you gave me so much satisfaction being onto that job. I can share with you that I enjoyed every moment with each one of you. I also try to build up a culture that the decisions need to be cooperatively done, a sentiment which was expressed by Dr. Ajay Sahai in his speech. And I think that could be the way by which we can take things forward. It is not that in everything all of us can agree, but if some of us can cooperate where others are agreeing, and then get it compensated in another area where you do require support, I think that will be the method by which the logistics as a sector could be taken forward. Because let us understand one thing which is about the logistics trade. Logistics is not about manufacturing. It's not, you can never integrate all aspects of logistics. Shipping will be shipping, inland shipping will be inland shipping, coastal shipping will be coastal shipping. They all will be different. But it is possible to have institutional arrangements like the FIEO, to have cooperation among them, and to ensure that the interfaces, which is where costs are added. I repeat, it is the interfaces at which costs are added. It's not that shipping lines charge too much, but when it comes for the shipping line to go to the next mode, the interface adds tremendous costs. And it is all known to us that most of our logistics costs, at least I'm sure I worked with each one of you, FIEO is also aware, worked with them as well. Our large logistics trade markup is almost 250% of the cost of what we pay for logistics. The markup is 250 times. That is the amount of money which we pay, what I would call moving from one mode to another through an intermediary, is as much as 250% of what we actually pay the logistics players so the benefits of logistics trade is not necessarily going to logistics players. And that's what we need to, and I would strongly advise FIEO to address this issue, because if you are able to organize methodologies by which it can be done, I think we have a way forward. I will concentrate on 6 issues which I would like to submit before you. One is India is no longer talking about ease of doing business. It's now part of the philosophy. We should be talking about the cost of doing business. And because once we reduce logistics costs, believe me, several exports which today are not taking place will take place. Several imports which are not taking place will take place because we can value add them and send them out. So these are 2 important areas which we are losing because our logistics costs are high. So we pay once for coming in and then we have to pay almost the same amount for going out. So any amount of value addition expected in India is simply wiped out by the increase in logistics costs or by the type of logistic cost structuring which we have. So I'm not talking about logistics costs per se. I would like to emphasize on logistics cost structuring, which is what we need to address. And once we address this, a lot of opportunities open up for the export trade, also for the import trade. I repeat, it's not just exports which benefit by logistics, by what I would call appropriate logistics costs. I'm not talking of reduced logistics costs. We need to pay for it. Logistics is basically a thing which a movement costs money. And we need to pay for it. The question is how much we are willing to pay. If something has to be paid, we have to pay. But it has the flip side that certain products and will neither be able to move out nor it will be able to come in. So this is my key element on this aspect. Willing to work with each one of you as I have done to ensure that we have an acceptable way forward. And that's the way to go about. The second important, the rest of the points which I would like to submit are matters which we need to put our house in order. They're all internal issues. And these internal issues are so important that without addressing them, it's very nice to say that somebody else should reduce the cost. But what are we doing with us? The first important thing which I would request FIEO is, it's very difficult to manage contract payments in this country. I mean, people simply don't pay on time. Now, FIEO must get its people to pay on time. I mean, it's not sufficient that you have an MSME recovery cell through courts, but we must ensure we have a mechanism within FIEO itself that members pay on time. Everybody wants to do business at the cost of the other. I agree that there might be credit terms, but credit terms have to be honored. If I have to have an employee, a collecting team, it's a wasteful cost. My MSMEs cannot afford it. Now, if you want to say that somebody has to meet the chairman of an organization, of a big organization, and he has to employ a person at that level, it adds tremendous cost because a young fellow cannot go and meet him. So you have people of the level of general managers, deputy general managers doing collection management. And that's a simple, and according to me, it's as high as 5 to 8%, which is a huge amount. 5 to 8% of cost is huge amount for our collection. It virtually destroys value. And I think this is the first step. While we can ask government to do a lot of things, this is a thing which businesses need to address quickly in order to ensure that India as an institute, India as a center for good businesses is able to attract people. Because people simply have to add some 10% for your collection management if they want to do business in India. And that's not good news. But I'm pretty certain with some of the proactive ways with FIEO can interact, this could be possible. And most of FIEO's members, I have worked with them, they are very sensitive to this. And I know for certain that at least 30 to 40 members have replied back to me telling that they do not keep a single payment beyond the credit line. And if they have kept it, they are paid interest at 12%. I have emails and SMSs for that from very, very eminent members of FIEO. So I would say that FIEO is one thing which can take it forward. Another thing which I would request FIEO in order to take things forward is end-to-end platforms. One beginning was made with blockchains. I think all documentation related to exports needs to be on blockchains per se, so that nobody, even if it is in the roads, internal roads, nobody stops you and asks you, what are you doing with it? I mean, please send me an original. Nobody needs to send an original. They all will have to be on blockchains. And I think this is a simple platform which FIEO as an institution and with its tremendous clout can set into motion. It can also happen in partnership with certain organizations with which my logistics friends are associated, and they support the IPA portal. I think that is one way forward. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the shipping lines together managed to set in place a blockchain system. I know Marg did it, but I think the MSC and CMA, CGM would not be too far behind. And if I'm not mistaken, they would have also done it. The idea is to get it onto a platform and then take it ahead. The important thing what it does is it makes Indian businesses or Indian related businesses global. You can always send anything from Sonipat to, let us say, Amstelveen in a single movement, and leave it to the rest of the logistics players to determine the best possible way forward. I think the setting up of this platform along with a blockchain is something which I would strongly advise Ajay to be the first person, to be the first group to do it, just like India has set the way to it by being, I mean, always we thought that in India vaccines will come 10 years after any other country has done it. But this time we showed it to the world that we can produce the vaccine if we could. I think that's the proactive way which I think exporters, the Export Association needs to say, that you must say, I need the platform and get it done. We have the wherewithal, we have the technology, we have the capability, we have the money, and we have the vision. So I think nothing except what I would call the will is what is the only thing, WILL. Once you decide that it needs to be done, there is nobody to stop you. I would also, next is, I think, a wonderful way forward. I think I also spoke about it in Coimbatore. Israr was there with me when I spoke about the ROTEP. I think this is a plain, I think you can take it forward. But as long as you insist that everything should be done before you take it forward, believe me, nothing can be done. Because ROTEP, the taxation issues are product specific, region specific, local variations. So it is only possible to do it in a sequencing or a linear manner. It is not possible to do it in a one-stop manner. And the more you insist on one-stop manner, I think you are giving it away to the government not to do anything. And government will always be telling that, okay, we will do it everything together. Once you say everything together, I think you have lost the plot. The idea to be is let people do what they can do. Central government can agree on their component of petroleum taxes, which will provide you almost 17% relief. Now you don't say why states should also come on board. Just imagine trying to take the agreement with 30 states. It's just not possible at one time. If you wait for it, you'll have to wait till eternity. And people don't have the patience for that. Ajay will not have the patience for that because he will say it cannot be done in my tenure. So why I should address it? So that's the way. Go forward. If a particular state is willing to give you a particular this thing, you please enable it. And if you want to take RODTEP forward, it has to be E-enabled. If you are not E-enabled, if it is going to be documentation based, believe me, it can never ever be implemented. And it will have so many frauds that every now and then you will have hiccups. So it has to be electronic based right from start. It has to be source based documentation so that the certification comes from the source and not at the destination. But the destination only provides the inputs that such and such a thing with such and such a thing is arrived, and you close the loop. As long as you do not close the loop, you will have huge amount of regulatory bureaucracy, vigilance bureaucracy on your neck, and it cannot be avoided in any nation as long as you have it. So my submission to you is, please try to go electronic. It's possible to do it. It's so simple that I don't know why we are not telling that we will do. Over a period of 10 years, almost everybody will come online. Once we get the critical mass, but let us go on. Some states may give something, some states may not give something. It's okay. That's one of their ways of attracting or not attracting businesses. I'm pretty certain Israr is there. Tamil Nadu will always give it for leather exports. UP will always give it for leather exports. Karnataka may give it for leather exports. Maybe Andhra may not. It's okay. 1 or 2 units may shift. Israr will make it shift to Chennai, no problem. Or Ambu, it's okay. Or to Kanpur. So that's the way we need to go about. And in terms of organizing this, and I would be very grateful if to be helping you in this and pro bono in trying to make this happen, because I see it as a very, very low-hanging fruit that we are not willing to eat it. We want to jump. It's like a cheetah not killing a prey which is standing. It's like it can only hunt a running prey. So we want to jump and eat the fruit, not the fruit which we have it in the hand. And that's how I would like to look at it. A key word, because I'm in a FIEO forum, I would like to submit on the issue of SEZs and FTWZs, especially in the context of attracting manufacturing, which are fleeing China. And that is known now. But we are not getting the benefit of it. Why? The reason is very simple. All our SEZs and FTWZs are only SEZs and FTWZs in name, because fundamentally they are all customs bonded warehouses and they come under the Customs Act. Whereas an SEZ or a free trade warehousing zone is beyond the customs area. The only thing which should matter in an SEZ or an FTWZ is whether the nation has allowed that raw material and whether the nation allows that manufacture. This is a matter to be decided at the SEZ, FTWZ area. It has got nothing to do with customs. Now, unless and until we move a mechanism by which SEZs and FTWZs are real manufacturing areas which can manufacture anything and move anything. The only thing to be manufactured, the only caveat being anything which is prohibited in this country as a nation should not be allowed. Anything which a raw material can be allowed, but it cannot lead to the manufacture of something which is prohibited in this country. So all these things are particularly important, but unless and until we address that, I'm pretty certain you're all top level exporters. Several of you I have seen are manufacturers as well. There's no doubt about it. I would request you and I would request Ajay to take this up and impress upon the government that this is the lacuna, not the customs related issues. Customs should be outside the SEZ. If something is coming out of the SEZ or FTWZ into this country, the customs comes in. Not when it is a non-custom area. A non-custom area, the regulations need to be different. As I have already mentioned, I don't wish to maintain again, it's only relating to free movement of permissible raw materials and free manufacture of permitted goods. That's the thing. Yes, the last item which I would submit to you is about containers, where my shipping friends are also there. I mean, a nation, my only request is, if each exporter were to provide for 2 containers, we would have enough containers. It's such a simple thing, and the manufacture is so simple. It is just a sheet metal shop. It's as simple as that. We have those capabilities in this country. We manufacture the cars here, which are exported. Those capabilities are available here. All what is required is a business acumen to manufacture them. It doesn't matter. We might be 10% costlier. It doesn't matter. We can always, because in a life of 15 years, that amount can always be made up. It's not difficult. But if FIEO as a group were to take that, own your container or the FIEO containers, and you give it to the shipping lines, doesn't matter, FIEO India containers, that is anything related to India, you put it and get it back. And it can be a common repository of the exporters of FIEO India. I think we would have enough. I think the enough businessmen, FIEO businessmen are rich, and I wouldn't think that they mind $2,000 buying a container worth $2,000. The cost of a container is $2,000. You mean to say that FIEO exporters, they would be willing to pay you $2,000 per month in order to contribute to your kitty and manufacture it in India and provide it as India FIEO thing. It's a very simple thing. It's actually a way of working together and as a group, as FIEO India, and trying to see that we address this. And as I told you, even if the containers were to be 10% costlier, it doesn't really matter. Over a period of time, it gets recovered. And the fact that we are very good at repairs makes it all the more exciting to be in this business. And I think this, it's a business waiting to happen. It's a business which can happen once we wish, immediately, and we can over a month we can establish or provide the support to existing units, which are many. At least I know in the south there are many sheet metal units. We can always get them upgraded. They manufacture for foreign clients. They can manufacture it for India as well. And this is one way by which we can take it forward. And I don't think the money, $2,000 is too big for each of our businessmen. And the number of members, if I'm not mistaken, FIEO's membership is 6,000, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
32,000, sir.
We lost him.
Sorry for the slight disruption. I hope I'm right when I say that there's something like 6,000 members which FIEO has.
32,000, sir. 32,000.
32,000 multiplied by $2,000.
So some of their exports are $2,000.
I cannot count. I cannot count the money. I have never seen that much of money. So I cannot count it. So that is the capability which we have, and it need not be over a day. It can $2,000 can be over a period $200 per month. It's possible, and I think we should do it. I entirely support Ajayji when he said that containers are required, but I don't think we should say that it's sufficient if we just say that we will just say who has to do it. Why not we do it? We are the expert group. We have got our shipping lines to support us, and I know they are extremely friendly group, and they will be very happy to back this move and also provide you support in foreign shores. It's particularly useful, and working with them. We could take India's exports forward, because they also want to move a lot of goods and want to bring a lot of goods back to India as well. I think these are the 6 points which I had. There are many more, but I will leave it for the time being, and expect my colleagues in the panel to cover certain other issues which you may have to say. Thanks a lot. It's been a very great pleasure being with all of you once again, and I'm extremely emotional about this reunion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable inputs and guidance. I'm sure that FIEO will take some of the suggestions you already put forward, especially on interface between logistics and the trade. And I'm sure that all sectors will be get benefit out of that. Thank you once again. And I now request Mr. Ravindran, Chairman Chennai Port, to deliver his address on various initiatives taken by Chennai Port to help the industry. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Unnikrishnan, Mr. Sirasailam, Dr. Ajay Sahai, Mr. Israr, and other esteemed partners. I'm very happy to be associated in this program today. I thank FIEO for giving me this opportunity. The contemporary supply chain in which container logistics operate is inherently complex. All of us know the uncertainty is due to range of factors: changing consumer demands, increasing imbalance in trade, the trade protectionism which has come up of late, and not the least, the availability of so many agencies, starting from freight forwarder, transporter, container depots, railway terminals, shipping lines. What Mr. Sirasailam was telling in the whole logistics, the transfer which is adding unreasonable cost, was mentioning about that. So when you see the supply chain, I think one thing what we have to look at it, one thing is to optimize and introduce efficiency, reduce cost in each link of the supply chain. But one more thing what we have to look at is the total removal of certain unnecessary links which do not add value but add only cost. Such links are there maybe mainly because of the infrastructural problems or the issues related to rules and regulations and other conditions required. Recently, the effects of these factors on global trade have intensified due to the pandemic COVID-19. We saw extensive lockdown over a prolonged period, which has had hindered global supply chain. The post-pandemic recovery in the world has further been dampened by container shortages and consequent rise in freight rates as reported by the press. Due to widespread lockdowns in 2020 spring, this has drastically reduced world trade, and the shipping lines responded by reducing the number of vessels to maintain the rates. This led to large number of containers being stranded at ports, container depots all around the world. In Indian context, all of us know RBI data shows that we had about 30% reduction by value in April-November period, and merchandise export was reduced by 18%. This mismatch in trade affected the empty supply. Also, we had problems in the neighboring ports, Colombo and Singapore, which act major transshipment hub for Indian exports. And Indian exports is facing congestion because of these problems at Colombo. We have seen recently some of the ships have been diverted to Kochi and Kamarajar port in Chennai. The ports in the southern region, major ports are also taking a lot of initiatives to see whether there is an opportunity in these conditions and whether they can help the import-export fraternity to meet the challenges posed by this pandemic. Coming to Chennai port, we had back-to-back cyclones Nivar and Buravi in November and December. This has damaged certain infrastructure, approach roads were damaged, and there have been changes and bunching of vessels following this diversion of mainline vessels. This has posed a tough situation to the stakeholders of Chennai Port Trust. With concerted efforts of the other participating government agencies like Customs, Police, and our own terminal operators, the Container Corporation of India, the agents, shipping lines, and custom brokers, I think we have been able to reduce the impact to a great extent. All of you know the Chennai port. We have
one single gate which is open 24/7 by the authorities. This road takes about 90% of our cargo movement. The ongoing subway work in Chennai, because of construction of metro, has put a lot of challenges for us. In addition to this, only one gate being available. We, along with police, have taken a lot of measures to ensure whatever the problems being faced by the trade. What we have felt during December is there has been sudden surge of demand for exports. In addition to non-availability of containers, each exporter started worrying whether their stuffed container can reach the port so that can catch that particular ship. This somehow resulted this visible, what was perceived as a great demand and the problems associated with the movement has resulted in a situation wherein we have seen a lot of exporters moving containers without getting even Form 13, which has really posed a lot of challenges to us. See, with this one gate available, we can easily get in about 2,500 trailers, and 2,500 trailers can go out without any problem. There were days where we were able to receive only 1,700, 1,600, but that too resulted in very severe traffic congestion outside the port. Let me tell you, in the last 3-4 years, there have been a lot of changes inside the port to reduce the congestion. We have made separate roads for in and getting in empties and getting in the loads for both the terminals. And there are level crossing where the import and export traffic cross, those things have been eliminated. And this has resulted very good mobility inside the port. So we are able to receive without any problem 2,500 to 2,700 trailers a day. However, the congestion outside the port, because of the trucks coming and stopping there without proper documents, has resulted in major problems. Some of the initiatives taken by the port and its stakeholders during this time include regular patrolling inside and outside the port, along with the police, strict control by police officers to ensure continuous flow of trailers, permission of e-seal verification, which has been done only at the Tiruvallur facility. With customs, we could open out at another 2 points, especially namely Madhavaram and Thandiarpet Concor facility. We have opened up additional import gates at the Zero Gate of Chennai Port by taking additional customs shop so that the round the clock 4 gates are kept open. Improved yard dynamics by tuning the dedicated stake area for export containers for continuous receipt of laden trailers into the terminal, and continuous monitoring of Form 13 being issued along with terminals, shipping lines, CFSs, and the port. We have opened one empty container yard facility inside the port. All of you know, when this lockdown happened and whenever there is a congestion, we take the help of Concor and move en bloc certain containers to Thandiarpet. During March, April, May, there have been at least 120 trains, which has helped us in moving containers, and Concor was also came in timely to give 45 days free time during that time to reduce the problems for the import and export fraternity. As Mr. Sivasailam was mentioning, most of the issues, I think, which relate to regulation or the governmental agencies, even otherwise, can be sorted out and cost can be reduced if you go on digital mode. This has been really taken seriously by the major ports. IPA, the apex body of major ports, have taken up the work of PCS 1X. All of you know, all of you, maybe the stakeholders enrolled in PCS 1X. As a further development of PCS 1X, NLP, that is National Logistic Platform, Marine, has been envisaged, and IPA is in the process of finalizing the terms and conditions and identifying a person to implement this NLP Marine. And ports have also taken up the work of introducing ERP systems in their business so that the customers can get seamless experience digitally. They need not have to come to the port. They need not have to join various softwares, use various softwares. They interact with port through PCS or whatever the platform, what is available through web. Chennai Port, on their part, their EBS has already started on trial from 29th December. And I'm told we have started issuing our services and the bills by SAP, what has been introduced. The Chennai Port has been considering another system to be introduced, sort of not exactly the trailer booking system, but taking up the Form 13 and the intention of that particular trailer to come at particular time. This we would like to collect and then share with the stakeholders so that they can intelligently plan when to reach the port so that there is no congestion. And we should also be interested in this, because with this planning by them as well as by the port, we would be able to increase the throughput across the gate and across the road what is available. As you all know, we are processing for early execution of that elevated road, which should come up in another 2 years. At least the bids will be called for in the next couple of months, and we expect 2.5 years for completion of the work in 2023. Certainly the road should be available, which will release maximum problem at the northern Chennai. We will be able to directly get connected to the National Highway 4 Chennai-Bangalore. On the marine side and giving more facility here, we have concentrated on the transshipment business potential in Chennai. We have taken all the major ports on the eastern coast of India, and we found Chennai has been handling the maximum percentage of direct cargo. That is the maximum number of mainline vessels are coming. There is a good logic that other ports like Calcutta, Paradip or Visakhapatnam, the cargo can be brought from there to Chennai by coastal vessels, and here the mainline vessels can be connected. We had discussions with various shipping lines, and I'm happy to tell you, most of you may be knowing, from July, we started getting the connecting services, and we had introduced by one of the shipping lines a direct service to Middle East and Europe, connecting Middle East and Europe. This has started peak service and the connection coastal services. This has really now increased the quantum of transshipment, which was not happening earlier. Now it's happening. I'm sure exporters and other trade partners should see this and try to see whether this can be used. And this has resulted in some of the introduction of some more mainline vessels here. Chennai Port has really taken this point with utmost sincerity and reduced a lot the vessel related charges. Those are already available with in our website, and all of you may be knowing that. I would only request the shipping lines and trade to see this possibility being available here. We are open to further discuss if anything is required from the port trust, so that our dependency on the nearby ports, which we have faced during November, December, all of you know what happened because of Colombo and Singapore. Lot of problems were there. I think we should be seeing the possibilities available within the major ports, and we are open for discussion if anything we could do. I just thought I would share these things. And certainly the digital initiatives of the major ports should be a real game changer in the next 1 year for the Exim trade. And I think FIEO will be pleased to note the digital initiatives taken by IP and major ports. With this, I thank members of the FIEO for calling me today and allowing me to share some of my thoughts. And I thank all the organizers, and thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for highlighting various initiatives taken by Chennai Port, and we thank you for all the supports providing to the trade and industry. We have with us Mr. Krishna Kumar, is the Vice President, Southern Region MSC. Agency Private Limited. I request him to deliver his sentence. Over to you so much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sivasalem, Dr. Ajay Sahai, Mr. Israr Ahmed. Thank you for inviting me and providing an opportunity to converse with your members. Just to take you through a little bit of background, the topic that I would briefly talk about is about the alternate ports as a contingency planning. But before I come to that, just a recap of what led to this situation. Ever since this COVID lockdowns started in various parts of the world from March, April, and May, it led to a lot of factory closures. It led to labor shortages, restrictions on work areas. So this created containers to be piled up at the ports, ICDs, and at these factories. So this is a period from April and May and June. This is not only in India, I'm talking about, it's a global phenomenon. We had this primarily impacting Europe and USA in a very big way. These two geographies are the biggest trading blocks. So any restriction on business, any restriction on movement in these two geographies will have a huge ramifications for the entire trading globe. So the first 3 months from April, May, June saw huge impact to containers getting stuck at various places. And there's simply not enough export cargo available during this period. So just to balance the cost, the shipping lines had to cut down the number of ships that call each of these ports. An Indian context, in the first 3 months of the impact, we had huge reduction in the export cargo being offered all over India. So the shipping lines also consequently cut down the vessel calls. But that's just plainly kicking the can forward, because the import containers which should have come on these vessels were also held up at the transshipment ports. So this is what happened in the first 3 months, which led to these huge container shortage that we talk about, right? From July onwards, China, the whole world rebounded, the world economy rebounded. China in particular rebounded fast because they were the first ones to apparently control the pandemic. They bounced back with strong demand. One, they had a pent-up demand of the periods that they have not been able to export. Second, still there are a lot of pockets in Asia, including India, which were under severe restrictions or various stages of lockdown. So these orders were also piling up on China. So the demand that China saw for inventory was never seen before, starting in July. So even today, we should appreciate that, as few of my speakers earlier had also mentioned, this container shortage is not a India-specific issue. It's a global phenomena. And containers are a global property in some sense. So the geography, the economy which actually started with full steam from July onwards was China. And so bulk of the containers were going to China. That's one of the reasons which produced sort of a shortage situation for India. Not to mention the most important aspect as far as we are concerned is the huge drop in imports. Traditionally, India has been a consuming market where imports have been more than exports. So much so, every year till now, we have only been evacuating empty containers to other countries. But 2020 is the first period in which the imports drastically reduced. And that led to a situation where containers need to be fed, positioned into India to meet our export demand. Just for South India alone, I have these numbers from July. the imbalance was around 35%. The imports were down 35% in July, and it started getting slightly better to 33% in August, and slowly getting better till November, and it was minus 5%. So till November, July to November period, the imports saw a negative growth of 25%. This I'm talking about in South India alone, right? Thankfully, in December, the imports picked up by 16% over the same period last year. So the total deficit for imports from July to December is 16%. So we are lacking 16% of the containers, which would have helped the exporters in South India, right? What did the shipping companies try and do it? We did try to increase the quantum of empty containers that can be supplied to India. In fact, just as a quick look at the 4 terminals in Chennai, they handled 12% more empty container inbound in the July to December period or the same period last year, right? So there is a 15% gap, 12% the lines increase the empty containers coming into South India. This must be understood against the backdrop of the huge demand for equipment at China, and where the ocean freights from China to other ports are roughly twice that of what is continuing to prevail in India, right? So the massive deceleration in imports was the primary reason, because this is a new phenomena. Even though it is a pressing problem, the lack of container availability and the ship space is a pressing right now imminent problem that we all discuss. It should be understood in the context of the last 2-3 decades, where we have been a consuming market, where imports have been high and we have been only evacuating equipment. Just to give you an idea, the freights to China primarily used to be $0 to Shanghai. So that was, India was actually in some sense to acting as a reposition trade, and all of them changed when our imports started dropping back. So just to put the context of how drastically our imports have reduced, and that has primarily led to the container shortage. Of course, there have been specific issues that had impacted Southeast India, I should say, and that's to do with Colombo congestion. It started mildly in August with a couple of days of flash strikes by the Colombo labor union. Ironically, this strike was against the terminal concession, the port-related terminal concessions offered to an Indian consortium, right? From then on, we had frequent strikes, and the unfortunate case of the second wave of COVID spike in Colombo and the resultant labor shortage really aggravated the problems. So we had both laden containers and empty containers at Colombo stuck. They are not able to get into Indian locations on time because of the average a week or 8 to 10 days delay. This is a massive problem, and thankfully in the last couple of weeks we are seeing the Colombo terminal situations easing out, and the backlogs are almost cleared. So that's another good news. Just like the huge spike in imports we saw in December, if that is a precursor of things to come in the coming months, then the Colombo congestion, which has resolved itself, is another positive factor which should ease the current equipment scarcity. Then, of course, other couple of minor points which also had an impact on our equipment situation is the immediate geopolitical policy, which restricted or introduced a 14-day quarantine for vessels coming from the Chinese ports. So this meant that these ships couldn't dock at the Indian ports if they had transported with the last port of call in China in less than 14 days. So that also added up a little bit of challenge for getting the containers into the flow. Plus, but it's a minor issue, but customs introduced the faceless assessment. It's a very progressive and a far-reaching positive step. But there were some minor hiccups in the introductory stage, and that led to delays in clearance as well. So there are a lot of factors which led to this container shortage, and that's just to give you a background of the situation that we are in. Coming to the solutions, what can be done, what is being done to address them? As I briefly said, shipping lines have increased the amount of empty containers that they have coming, that they are positioning into South India specifically. Plus, we are also reducing the free time offered on a lot of these import containers. Traditionally, commodities like steel scrap, waste paper, and timber logs, who used to enjoy a longer free time on the imports. We are trying to reduce that to a reasonable time period, so that those inventories can come back and join the export available pool in a faster time. There's another issue where a lot of progress has been done by customs again in the last couple of months to clear the long stay containers. Specifically around the 32 CFSs in Chennai, there are 4,500 uncleared and abandoned containers left, out of which at least 3,000 of them are more than 1 year. So a lot of progress has been done by customs in the last couple of months to expedite the action that is required from their end, and also in some cases with the investigating end, and in few cases with the court orders, to clear these containers and let these containers join the inventory pool. That action should continue with full vigor, so that we are able to take the benefit of the containers which are lying with us already at hand. Plus, as shipping lines, we have also started ordering for new inventory. Like in most things with heavy industries, container manufacturing is done. 80% of the global containers are manufactured in China. And ever since the Hanjin debacle 4 years ago, the amount of investments that have gone into containers, we should admit, have not been very aggressive. They've been a little bit tepid. There's been a lot of wait and watch as to how the global economy pans out. But this situation where we found that equipment's getting stuck in various places gave rise to this scarcity, and thus an action from us to order more inventory from the Chinese container manufacturing companies. The Chinese container manufacturing companies are filled up to the brim till April. And we have most of the shipping lines have ordered for fresh inventory from these Chinese manufacturers. On the long term, of course, as was referred by Dr. Ajay Sahai and also by Mr. Sivaselam, the government has initiated a container manufacturing hub in Bhavnagar, Gujarat. This has been on a request that container shipping lines have been putting forth to the ministry, and now that this hub is being set up, gives us the control of inventory in India itself. Of course, it's going to take some time, but this is a very, very good step in the right direction, something that would help us to tackle should similar situation occur a year down the line or so. So these are some of these solutions being put in place. And then coming specifically to this point about alternate ports, what are the alternate ports that we look for as a contingency, just to give a little more stability and predictability to the supply chains. While talking about ports, I just wanted to break them out into two. One is the ports that are in South India, and the others as the ports that we traditionally transship our cargo, right? While talking about the ports in South India, if you just look back, let's say 4 to 5 years ago, we had only 4 major ports, one in Cochin, Tuticorin, Chennai, and Visakhapatnam. All of them had a single terminal. Right? Over the last few years, a lot of investments have gone into these terminals, and you have now 4 terminals. 4 terminals in Chennai itself. We have 4 terminals with PSA and DP World in Chennai, and Adani operating from Ennore and also from Kattupalli. Plus in Tuticorin, we have the second terminal other than PSA. Now Bollore has also put a terminal, Dakshin Bharat terminal. And similarly, in Cochin, we moved from a government-operated port into a much more modern and much bigger port there, operated by Dubai ports. So in terms of the port capacity, there has been a massive expansion in the last 3 to 5 years, and so much so the hinterland cargo, whether it's Coimbatore or Bangalore, they now have multiple options to use any of these terminals across. Not only that, we should also recognize that alternate ports have also come up. Take, for example, Krishnapatnam, just 160 miles from north of Chennai. This terminal came up, and shipping lines adapted to that, and there has been a good support from the businesses in that area. And so is the case with Kakinada. Kakinada, which is a traditional break bulk port handling primarily rice, is now a regular feature for weekly container vessels operating out of there. In fact, shipping lines, few of them tried operating out of Karaikal a couple of years ago, but sadly the trade support from that place was not very encouraging, so that services had to shut down after 6 months. So when it comes to creating port capacity, when it comes to expanding port capacity, fortunately and rightly so, we are slightly ahead of the actual demand, which should always be the case, that the infrastructure capacity should always be in excess of the demand, so that there is no bottleneck in the infrastructure and the last mile. So that's as far as the ports in South India and their ability to scale up is available. On the transshipment, to a great extent, there have been a over-reliance on Colombo for transshipping Southeast Indian cargo. So what came to us as a good learning during this congestion in Colombo is that a lot of shipping lines rerouted their containers to avoid the waiting time. And as Mr. Ravindran said, Ennur had handled 8 mother vessels during this period. And so is Cochin, and Tuticorin has also handled a few mother vessels. This showcased that these terminals are also geared and have the infrastructure, the draft requirements to handle big mother vessels. So in terms of contingency planning, even though there is a reliance on Colombo, the ability of the South Indian ports have been showcased during these emergency periods. What we have also have to see is that now in places like Chennai or even in Krishnapatnam, there is a lot of transshipment happening of Calcutta cargo coming in, or a Vizag cargo coming in, and cargo from here, from Chennai going in and all the way to China. So there are mother vessels from Far East, namely China and Japan, into Chennai. And similarly, there are vessels, mother vessels from Chennai to Europe as well. Right? So the mother vessel request in terms of can we cut down our reliance on Colombo? Already we have mother vessels here, and the trade should continue to support those mother vessels so that they become profitable. We should realize one thing, that these mother vessels already take a 2.5 days deviation from the primary Asia-Europe route, and the port costs in Indian ports, as Mr. Sivaselam is well aware and has also pointed out, are exorbitant compared to Colombo, for example. So the moment our ports are given the leeway to set more competitive tariffs to attract the vessels, more and more transshipments will happen at ports like Chennai and Cochin. So I have no doubts about our capabilities to do that, or the volumes that can be generated. It is that the cost effectiveness have to be supported. There's one more potential project that's coming up at Vizhinjam by Adani. That has the least deviation from the Asia-Europe shipping route. And if all goes well, that should reduce our reliance on Colombo, with more and more containers from Southeast India getting transshipped at that port. So this is as far as the contingency ports in place or the ability to scale up. Coming back, this container shortage, which has resulted in also the high costs in the supply chain, is a temporary phenomena. The shipping lines are going to be aggressively inducting new containers and also new vessels from the second half of this year. So the availability of the shipping space coupled with the more and more new container fleet coming in, plus the imports increasing for us, augurs well for the times to come. And I hope as everyone in the community, in the industry would feel, what kills us is the uncertainty. What kills us is not the price. What kills us is the uncertainty. So I hope with these things coming in place in the months to come, there will be certainty and predictability that will augur well for the consistent, predictable supply chain for our exporters. Thank you once again, Mr. Israr, for giving this opportunity, and I wish this event all the success.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krishnamar, for highlighting the current issues and how it's going to be tackled by various shipping lines and the MSC. Thank you once again. Now I request Mr. Parthasarathi Gopalan, Area General Manager of is taking care of South and East of India, CMA CGM. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Unikrishnan. Good evening to everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Ajay Sahai, Director General and CEO of FIEO. Thank you very much, Israr, Regional Chairman, FIEO Southern Region. Thank you very much, Mr. Unikrishnan. Thank you, Shri Chaudhary Sir, Chief Commissioner of Customs. Thank you again, Mr. Ravindran, again, Chennai CHPT, IRTS. Shri JK Ramachandran, IAS Chairman, BAOC Port Trust. Mr. Sunil Paliwal, IAS, again, Chairman, Ennore Port Trust. Mr. Krishna Kumar himself, and last but not the least, Mr. Lively Sivasalam Sir. The first and foremost, what I would like to highlight is this situation that we are in today is something that we have never seen in the past. I think Krishna Kumar as well as many others have already shared earlier that today the imbalance between the export and the import has hit us real bad. I think we also then need to look at the other aspect, which is when we are talking about the imports being down, it is where is it the imports are down from? And typically the down comes from the the western part of the world, which is from the US and from the Europe, whereas the imports from China today continues to be strong. So as we speak, while the China imports have gone up a great extent, the same cannot be said for Europe, and the same cannot be said for the US of A as far as the imports are concerned. The other thing that I noticed during the pandemic is that all the stakeholders, be it the government, be it Concor, be it the Port Trust, be it the CHE Association, and everybody, the support that we as shipping lines have got, in terms of the engagement that we have with all these stakeholders has been huge, and I think that is commendable. To me, the topic that has been assigned is the potential of increasing direct services from ports in and around Chennai. So that being said, we already have quite a few direct calls coming into the Chennai area. We have got the IEX service, which is Hapag, COSCO, ONE, YML, calling the DPW terminal going into the North Continent and also to the Mediterranean. We have the FME service, which is also called the IEX service, which is us, CMA CGM, along with partners, KMTC, RCL, TS Line, Simatech, COSCO, calling the PSA terminal. This is for Far East and China direct. We have the CI3 service, which is Vanhai, COSCO, IAL, ONE, calling both the PSA as well as the Kattupalli terminal, again going to the Far East and towards China. We have the TCX service, again operated by ONE, Express, RCL, COSCO, calling both the PSA as well as the Kattupalli terminals, again going towards the Far East and Asia. We have the CI6 service, which is BTL, Goldstar, Vanhai, IAL, and RCL, calling again the DPW terminal in Chennai, again going towards the Far East and Asia. We have the ACS service, the Hyundai Merchant Marine, calling Kattupalli terminal, again going into the Far East and Asia. So what we can see is typically all of these services, other than the IEX, are the ones which are the Far East and China centric, whereas the IEX is the only one service calling the Europe, North Continent, as well as the Mediterranean area. So to speak, do we have the potential? We already have these calls happening in the Chennai area. So yes, there is always a potential of having direct services more than what we already have of these 6 services which are calling today. The other aspect that we all need to also look at is the moment a shipping line plans, for a direct call, then it is to see, of course, the efficiencies in terms of cost, in terms of productivity. But the other main thing that we look out is for volumes which are coming both in and out. So if so long as there is a little bit of balance in both in and out, then the service becomes viable. And so long as the the port costs and the productivities are basis the requirement of the line, then it is certainly a possibility. If you look at today the drafts that are available in and around Chennai area, we can see that most of them are 15 meters or even more than that in certain terminals. And we can already have vessels of what 330 to 350 meters, which is roughly, you can say, about 8,500 to 9,500 TEU ships, which can come and which are also calling. The one challenge that I see, I mean, when I say a challenge, I don't exactly mean in a negative connotation, but the number of terminals that we have in the south and the east, I think we beat, the western part of India by leaps and bounds, because we have terminals today at every, nook and corner of the south and the east. So speaking about Chennai itself, Krishna Kumar rightly again pointed out that we already have the, the Chennai port with 2 terminals. Then we have the Kattupalli port. Then we have the Ennore port. Then we have the Krishnapatnam port. And then, of course, we have Tuticorin and Cochin. And plus the eastern side, we have the Vizag terminal, the Kakinada terminal. We also have then the Kolkata and the Haldia terminals. So for us as a shipping line, typically, we are more than willing to go where the customer wants. But the one thing that becomes a little bit of a challenge is deciding where do we want to go. Because the proximities that we have today, it's not viable to have 4 port calls in the same area. So tomorrow, if there is more such interconnectivity vessels, I don't know whether we can call it coaster vessels or feeder vessels. That certainly is something that we will be able to. It will be helpful to us if we have that kind of infrastructure or that kind of a route that is created. Today, from what we can see, most terminals want direct calls to themselves, and that is a bit of a challenge as far as shipping line is concerned. So to me, what we need to look at in terms of reducing logistics cost and in terms of saying how can we be more efficient is the end-to-end that we can offer to the customers, which means that what the customer wants is what is the total transit time that he's going to have, taking his cargo from, let's say, a hinterland like a Bangalore to be it Hamburg in Germany, or be it Newark in the east coast of North America. And how is it that we are also able to assist the customer in terms of making sure that we have a single window kind of a concept. Here again, I draw from what Mr. Sivasalam started this discussion speaking about blockchain. Now, blockchain, again, I think it's in various forms of development as we speak, but there are already quite a lot of things that shipping lines are doing in terms of digitization. During this entire pandemic, when the offices and the people were working from home, I think the shipping lines have already created, most of them have created already a platform where documents can be exchanged without physically anybody needing to move from their office to the shipping lines office. So we already have set up the ODEX platform, which means that right from your CFS nomination to your document submission, everything can be done via the ODEX platform, and the delivery orders are automatically issued also through the digital platform, and nobody needs to move. If you talk about also the bill of lading, today we have got what we call the paperless bill of lading, where a customer does not, all that he has to do is send his shipping instructions via the platform, and the digitized bill of lading is available to him in his computer. So there is no need for anybody to move from one place to another, or to worry and think, are the courier companies working today or not? And that is something that I've seen has got a little bit of a mixed reaction. While there have been quarters in the reefer trade in Vizag, where more or less most of the bills of lading that we issue today are paperless bills of lading. And I think the penetration in that area can certainly improve. I remember, I think along with Mr. Aluwalia and other members of the FIEO, we had also, as CMA-CGM, organized online session with the FIEO members, where we also shared with them on what is it that we can do in terms of digitized. So if that is a way forward, again, that will help reduce costs and probably also generate efficiencies. The other thing that we as shipping lines are doing today is all of us have realized that doing port to port is not going to add value, is not going to generate additional be it in terms of cost reductions for the customers. So today, as an end-to-end, we have got so many of value-added products that we offer to our customers. Be it in terms of Serenity, which is a kind of insurance that we offer. Be it in terms of tractions, which is a kind of visibility that we offer. Be it in terms of carbon footprint, which is in terms of the ACT that we offer. Be it in terms of security. Be it in terms of the bar locks that we offer. Be it in terms of perishables, where they need humidity control bags. So we have all diversified a great deal in also making sure that we are able to offer these facilities to the exporters, which in terms of two things. One is the cost of doing business, because you're not engaging with multiple stakeholders, so automatically the cost efficiencies come in, and also in terms of accountability. So this is what we as shipping lines are trying to do. So finally, to summarize, in terms of direct calls into Chennai area, certainly yes, Chennai is already, Chennai area rather, is already doing a lot of port calls. I'm sure once the situation improves and we have a handle on our imports, and we are not so reliant on the empties coming in into the south and the east, certainly this is a possibility that every shipping line looks at. And I can assure you one thing is the way that all of our principals look at the south and the east of India is a bit different from how they look at the western region, because the western region is already more or less developed in terms of more infrastructure, in terms of volumes, in terms of established trade routings, rail routings. The focus is always on south and east of India. So from the CMA-CGM perspective as well, the amount of focus that the south and the east gets is much higher than what the north and the west gets today. And in terms of the other aspects of equipment, I think it's already been dealt with by Mr. Krishna Kumar. So I would say thank you to him for that. And that would be my humble submission. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Partha, for highlighting various services and initiative you are planning for Chennai and surrounding area. Now the floor will open for taking few questions. We request those who want to speak, please raise your hand by pressing the hand button so that we can unmute you and call you for one by one. Mr. Santosh Raghavan, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, sir. Santosh Raghavan here, and I'm representing Fresh Overseas from Bangalore. Now, one of the major challenge, especially we are dealing with perishable cargos. And I'm sorry, my camera is not working. So we have been dealing with perishable cargos from India to Maldives and Colombo. Now, one of the major challenge what we are facing is with regards to high freights. That's one of the biggest challenge. The second challenge what we are facing right now is with respect to your, I can say container availability also. And the third challenge what we are facing with respect to, especially very specific to Maldives, we want, I'm just requesting our government to start off with some chartered or flights to Maldives so that we have a good frequency in our own exports being done to Maldives. So these are the concerns which we have as a perishable exporter from Bangalore.
Thank you, Mr. Raghavan. I mean, we've noted this down and we will take it up with the ministry as well.
Thank you, sir. Next, we can call Mr. Satish Chandran. Mr. Satish Chandran, please unmute yourself.
Hello, namaste. Is it my voice is audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Namaste. I'm representing Linde India. We do almost, some 20 containers import and exports in a month. Recently, we are finding that, most of our DG goods, mainly 90% what we do is DG goods. Most of the liners, trying to say that, we don't want to do this DG goods because it is not coming under our policy, DG policy and all. This situation was happened post-COVID. They started to react as if like, no carrier is trying to handle these DG goods. But pre-COVID, most of the liners used to handle these kind of exports and imports. But post-COVID, they reacted to something like, they don't want to handle this. And even still also we are facing the same this thing. How do we have to tackle this situation?
I'll request the two gentlemen, Mr. Parthasari and Mr. Krishna Kumar, one of them to speak about this, please.
Hi, this is Parthasari here. With regard to hazardous cargo, we have a very, very laid out SOP and process for acceptance of hazardous cargo, which is nothing more but making sure that first it is accepted to be carried by ship. Second is to ensure that the ships that are going to carry it, be it, if you're speaking from, let's say, Bangalore, then, whether the vessel that is taking it from Chennai to, let's say, Colombo or Singapore, or for that matter, even North Continent, whether the vessel is able to take it or not, and whether the port of transshipment and whether the port of discharge is also able to accept and handle this commodity or not. As we speak, we continue to handle hazardous cargo so long as the cargoes are acceptable. So unless you tell me what has cargo that you're talking about and which sectors that we are speaking about, because CMA-CGM, we continue to carry hazardous cargo. Yes, we need timelines. For example, the timelines typically is 24 hours for the HAZ approval, and we expect that whatever schedules have been given to the customer is also honored. Because if you miss a vessel, then we need to take the same approval for the next vessels also. So if you can just share what has cargo that you're talking about, in terms of packing group, UN number, and commodity, probably I can. And which sector are you speaking about? Where is it going to?
This mainly class 2, 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 class gases mainly. And the situation I try to explain you that the situation was not same till COVID. Till COVID, I didn't add any big problem of container liners rejecting my cargo and all. Post COVID, it is something like out of 10, I used to have 9 containers sailed out to the next shipping line. But post COVID, it happens like only 2 or 3 liners are only accepting it. 7 rejections are there. I felt like, okay, due to the export demand or whatever the import demand for the general cargo, they are trying to avoid the DG cargo. So I understand that, okay, there are the 3 legs of approval is there. One is owner vessel, shipping line, and transit port, everything that I understood. But the problem is, this is the actual case. No, rejection is everywhere there. I feel like, shipping lines are preferring general cargos over DG cargos.
Typically, no, because HAZ cargo, we also have the HAZ add-ons that we have to, for managing. So there is no way to refuse or not take a HAZ cargo. But at the same time, the equipment situation today is real. So I think it would be more a consequence of that, because if you ask even an exporter who is doing garments and who wants 100 containers, he is not able to get all the 100 containers simply because most shipping lines have equipment enough that you can count on your hands and your toes today sometimes. So it's more, I think, a function of the equipment and the space availability, not so much that the shipping line does not want to carry HAZ cargo that they were carrying earlier, so long as it is in the approved list.
So is there any way that there would be any intervention of the government or any private this thing, so that this abrupt increase in the ocean freight can be controlled?
See, when you're looking at the abrupt increase of the ocean freight, I mean, I have a very different take on that one because it is at the end of the day, it is demand and supply. So it is a price that is quoted, and it is a price at which the shipment is taken. So I don't believe exactly in high and low freights because it is more. I can assure you, if lines were carrying containers from Chennai or Tuticorin to Shanghai at $5, and if that $5 was a price that somebody was looking at, that price is what you're talking about, 350 rupees. You will not even get a bus ticket from Chennai to Pondicherry at that price. So I think price is a demand and supply related factor, because we are all competing for space. Krishna Kumar just pointed out some time back that the prices that China control or offer today is over more than double of what India is able to generate. At the end of the day, when we are fighting for space for India, we are fighting for space for India vis-a-vis what the others are able to generate and load.
Okay. Pata, did you call me in?
No, I was just quoting that what you said some time back. Though China again is more than double of what India is offering today as prices. So automatically, then the space will always be given out to the country which is at a higher level. No, so I think that's where it is. It's more demand and supply. So I don't know whether what I'm saying right now makes sense or not. But there is nothing called high and low. It is more a function of the market. But the $5 is not a reflection of the market.
Right. I agree with you. Most of it is dependent on the demand and supply, and clearly, and also costs. I'm sure you have much more costs today compared to what it was before, and with the disruptions and everything. Let's move on to the next question, please.
Yes, sir. Next, we can call Mr. Subramaniam. Mr. Subramaniam, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you very much. This is Subramaniam from Medrike, Bangalore. We are a pharmaceutical company. My question also is very similar to the previous speaker. One is availability of containers and the cost. Now, our point is from the thing that we are a pharmaceutical company, and this is not only for us. For almost every pharmaceutical company, we're facing the same problem. Like Mr. Pathasi said, no, this is due to the space availability. The prices fluctuate. We understand that, but right now we are paying almost more than double. And for pharma, it is very, very difficult for us to maintain the end prices. And most of our supplies are yearly contracts. So in no way, in between, we can increase prices to our customers or any of these things, especially in pandemic situation. Aspect, even simple products like paracetamol, which is the lifeline now, we not only have price increases in the APIs due to China, now freight rates are also going up, which is making it really unviable for us. So that is one. Second is the availability itself. Is there any way that the government can intervene and make sure that a certain percentage of containers are made available for the pharma industry? Specifically for the pharma industry. Like in our case, we have almost about 80 containers a month, and it's really a nightmare right now. We are waiting for more than 30 to 35 days before we can actually get a empty container. So this is my point.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Subramaniam. We will take it up, sir, with the government also, if they can do something for the pharma industry, if they can look at it specifically, considering that it is essential cargo as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. Next, we can move on to the participant who registered in the name of Acer1. Please identify yourself and you can unmute to raise your question.
Hi, ma'am. This is Kanan Mudaliar from Panolio Enterprise, Mumbai.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we are importers of oleochemicals, and from last 2 months, sir. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, we are importers of oleochemicals from Southeast Asia, And from last 2 months, the major issue what we are facing is that about this space constraint and freight rates are higher by 4 times what we used to pay. $600 per 20-feet container. Now we are paying more than $2,400. Still, we are not getting the space. And what we are hearing from shipping lines are that, especially from Thailand, when we are reporting, that the liners are not carrying higher weight. Means if you in terms of metric tons, they are not carrying more than 10 to 15 ton per container weight. And especially what we are dealing into flexi cargo, which is especially like you, as you know, it is 20 ton per 20-feet container. So last 2 months we didn't got a single booking from Thailand ports. And like our customers here are they are having a production loss, and we are not at all getting from. We are in touch with all the major lines as also with the NVOCCs, but still till today we have not got a single booking. So it's a major concern, because last 2 months, the last flexi I bought, I didn't got a single booking from Thailand port.
Would anybody like to take this? Is there any problem with regards to flexi booking from Thailand, or is it just a normal shortage?
Is for Krishna Kumar here.
Yes,
Mr. Mudliar, yeah. So specifically, there is no distinction between flexi container or a dry container. This is also with respect to availability of ship space. Most of the flexi containers will go on shipper-owned tanker containers. So it's not the equipment that you take from shipping lines. So it's not about inventory of the shipping lines. It's about the available space in the ship. And there is a dearth of shipping tonnage in Southeast Asia. So the general preference is to maximize the revenue earning by loading as many containers in that ship as possible, and that can be achieved by reducing the average weight of a single container. So that is general economies of scale for maximizing for that ship's productivity. But having said that, that situation has come up because of the container shortage and the vessel tonnage shortage that we have been experiencing for the last couple of months. Going ahead, we see signs of that situation getting better. As I just pointed out, in South India, registered a 17% growth in imports. So that's a precursor for things to come in the coming months. More and more imports would mean that the situation and the availability would be better from Southeast Asia to India as well. So it's a question of, it's a temporary transient phase. It should get better in the weeks to come.
But so what is happening is that we are unable to fulfill the commitment of our end buyers, right? And they are having a production loss, and they are putting a debit note on us. You understand? Since October, that means in November, in December, and up till now, we are halfway of January. I didn't got a single booking for Flexi. We have been in touch with all major lines, CMA, CGM, One Line, all these major lines, as well as NVOCCs, but still no positive response.
Yeah.
And what we are hearing is that means based on the transshipment Port Kelang and Singapore, since there is a heavy congestion, so that is the reason mother vessel connection they are not getting. That is the reason original port they are not issuing the booking. They have stopped the bookings. As well as for Flexi, we need A-grade containers. So a lot of shipping lines are not having A-grade containers at that particular ports.
Mr. Mudliar, we will take it up along with the Chemexil people as well, from the Chemexil, also for the Chemical Export Council. Please write to me, and we will try and take it up with the Chemexil also, so that to see what we can do together to help this part of flexi containers.
Definitely, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so next we can move on to the one last question. Mr. Mohar, please unmute yourself and you can raise your question. Mr. Mohar.
Hi, this is Mohar from JV Gokul. We are in the Palta economic zone, and we do import as well as export. So now what happened, we have imported a container from Germany, and it generally we have 40 to 45 days to reach Germany, to reach here from Germany. But now we have seen that it's 92 days, but still the container has not reached us. It went to the Philippus port instead of coming to Colombo. Again, then from Philippus, after 1 month, it went to Mundra. Now it is in Colombo and yet to reach. This was a CMA container, and we have also export on basis of this import. So for this, the export also got hampered. Recently, we have a MSC container also, which was also had the same status. So these are the things which we are facing, and for this, our export is also getting hampered. So can you please let me know when this situation will be a little bit reluctant?
Before we address this, JB Gokal, this is JB Gokal T, right? Kolkata
Yes.
as well as Coimbatore. Excellent.
Yeah.
First and foremost is, coming in from Germany, typically it should be Colombo, and from Colombo it should come into Kolkata.
Yes.
Why is it that it is not called Colombo? Why is it that it has gone to Philippines? Because the Colombo port was closed for most parts of the last 3 months. And today, yes, I can say to a great extent that normalcy has returned. But this is a situation that has come in, through the, of course, the strike is one part. And also the fact that they had this COVID-related challenges in the terminal, where there were nobody to operate those terminals in Colombo. As far as the shipping line is concerned, I mean, by normal transit time of 52 days, extending to 92 days, it only adds a cost to us, because then we have to do the futile trip of taking the box, not discharging it in Colombo, taking the vessel to Philippines. First is we first wait outside the Colombo terminal, so 4 or 5 days gone in that one. And each day that the vessel is standing outside there is thousands of dollars of cost accruing. So it is not in our interest. And then of course we have the other challenge of the Kolkata port by itself of I don't know what is it, 5.2 or 5.1 your winter draft today.
Yeah,
So
it's
with
a
that
river port.
yeah, I mean I've been associated with that port for the last 24 years now. And I'm fully aware of the draft situation that arises last week of November and continues until January. And today, typically what we would have loved to do is take it to Singapore and then getting it to Kolkata. That would have been cheaper, for us, because first and foremost is we also need to try and say how is it that we connect at the reduced cost, and it's also the the right way of doing it. Why are we not able to come to Kolkata? Because when the draft is at that low, the vessel has got a lot of space. But if the vessel comes in full, she'll be touching the ground, whatever locks that they open. We will never be able to come inside. So with those restrictions is what we operate. So even this one, we will see how best that we can route it from Colombo back to Kolkata, which again, I'm sure Girish will work with you on that one. And I'm sure Christopher's team in Calcutta will work. But these are the real constraints that we offer. Otherwise, if you look at the exports that we do for JB Gokal, be it for your Orimi or be it for any of your consignees, I think we make sure that we give you the cleanest of the 40 high cubes available for your tea, be it from Kolkata or be it from Coimbatore. So we try and do our best specifically for JV Gokal, because it's one of the big tea names in Kolkata and in India. But this one situation is far beyond our control or far beyond our expectations. And I can assure you, whatever price that we have taken at the container from Hamburg to Kolkata, we will be charging you the same price. We will not be billing you anything for futile ship going from Colombo to Philippines and all. But that is completely negative for us. So it's not in our interest. But we are also constrained with all these challenges that we have with the Colombo port, with the Kolkata port, and the resultant issue. So I'm sure that it doesn't help you because your container is delayed. But we will do our best to make sure that it comes in on time.
Thank you for your support, and I do understand and do agree on the conditions, but still I want to know when these conditions will be more better, because Colombo is now normalizing.
I will tell you that it's already normal now, but give it another 2 or 3 weeks for Colombo to get even better, because the draft issues in Kolkata is not going to go away. Just to share with you, from Singapore we are getting containers to Colombo and then taking it to Kolkata. we would have loved to take it directly from Singapore to Kolkata. So the challenge also is the draft that is available and the number of feeders that are available from the Kolkata Singapore circuit and what is available between Kolkata Colombo circuit as well. So you can say 3 weeks it should normalize down.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Partha and Mr. Krishna.
JV Gokal remains a very important customer for all of us. Let me assure you of that.
Yeah, that I know. I get full support from CMA. There's a lot of scarcity of containers, but still we are fighting. We'll fight.
Yes, we are.
Thanks.
Yes, we are waiting for rains to get us some containers as well.
Oh, it will be helpful for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Now I request Mr. T.S. Aluwalia, our Managing Committee member of FIEO, to wrap up the discussion and deliver his closing remark. He is now talking from Canada. Welcome, sir.
See.
Mr. Uni, thank you very much. How much time I have to, if there's a little time, I will just thanks to all the panelists.
No, please, sir, 10 minutes. Sir.
If I have little more time, then I can share my views also. Please tell me how much time I have.
Also share, we'd like to hear your views also, Mr. Aluwalia. Please.
So you have
okay. Thank you, sir.
Also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for giving me this opportunity, sir. Sir, I'll take about 10 to 12 minutes. I have actually done a lot of exercise for my friends, how I do exercise to resolve the issues. So all the issues are on this page, but it's need at least 1 hour to explain everything, but a lot of things are already conveyed by the panelists, esteemed panelists. So I will not go through this. But this thing is certain, sir. The growth of Indian export is hampered first time because of the logistics issues. We can grow, we can export more, we can produce more, but we cannot export because of the non-availability of the containers and the availability of the vessels. If I consider the situation, a lot of exporters, friends, they are expecting that their export should happen on the conditions before pandemic. That means the freight rate at that time and availability of the containers and vessels the same way. It is not going to happen in near future. At least next 6 months, it will not happen, or it may exceed. Yeah, this is the one thing I would like to mention. I still remember, when the lockdown was declared by the government, a lot of my friends called me, sir, what we should do? How it is going to happen in this year? I said, this year is very, very important to look for your survival. Save your things, save your money, save your people. That way we have to look 2021. So they asked me, sir, where we can focus our manufacturing? I said, considering the current scenario when the lockdown was offered, you focus on the 75% and then you should plan for the 100. Don't plan for 120 or expansion, that kind of thing. Pharmaceutical and the food lines or some essential lines only. So some people agreed on this. Then they called me again 3 months before. I said there is challenges in logistics. So you plan your production and make contract accordingly. So there are many things. The next thing which is going to disturb our logistics is the movement of the vessels. That is very, very important. And the thing which can help my exporter friends, and they are not following, is they are not giving advance planning, advance booking to the shipping lines. I know some people are giving, but still they are not getting. But in most of the cases, wherever the delay is, now the container position in on the most of the ports is said to be normal. Is said to be normal. Vessel frequency is also maintained. Now, considering the total scenario, this year the world trade is going to be shrink. GDP is going to be shrink. Indian export and GDP is going to be shrink. That is how much? Say, Ajay ji has rightly pointed out about 7%. My estimation was 10% is the contraction in the GDP, 10% contraction in the export, plus loss of the growth of 5% GDP, which we were supposed to get. So the total loss to the trade will be about 12 to 15%. That was my way of thinking. Now, coming to the solution side, the problems are highlighted by all our panelists. I'm coming to the solution side only. Can we use alternative mode? There are certain people, those are facing problem of the containers, making pharmaceuticals. They can try to shift cargo on air by chartered flight, which will be economical. If they can manage both way, it will be more economical. So we can also try the alternative routes, and we can create warehousing. If suppose your cargo can move easily to Dubai or Singapore or wherever, whichever hub is the near, you can move your cargo there, and from there you can move according to the requirement of your buyer. That is one way of thinking. And try to carry goods in the bulk. I tell you, I am a rice exporter also. The rice is the low value product which we are selling less than our MSP price. Rice selling at 24 rupees a kilo doesn't justify the cost. It is happening because of some loophole in the systems. So a lot of the containers, the Indian rice export has gone up by 33% or something. So can we use those containers instead of exporting rice? Can we use those containers for export of high value items, where the value addition is there? So that kind of thing, exercise has to be done, but we cannot force somebody to say, oh, sir, you should not export rice. So some kind of the exercise has to be done on this side. And we should focus on the value-added product, high-value items to be exported. Wherever possible, try to carry goods in bulk and pack at the destination. Like the paracetamol somebody was talking, they can carry paracetamol in the bulk and the packaging can be done at the destination. So by that, they can increase the volume by 50 to 70%. The import container time has to be reduced. And shipping line should give some kind of the incentive so that it should happen practically. Containers turnaround time has to be minimized. I am advocating since last 6-7 months, and people are helping, and shipping line are also helping. That is very, very important. Import of empty containers, I am thankful to the shipping lines. They are bringing the maximum, which was estimated about 4 lakh containers every month. This kind of thing is happening. I am assured by some ports that this is happening. Faceless custom is another area, which was delaying our import clearance. We should shift to the RMS and minimize the time here. The shortage of the containers, I was going through an article. It is estimated that there is a shortage of the 5 lakh containers in the system. If we add 5 lakh containers into the system, the shortage of the containers will be over. But what about the vessels to carry the containers? The FIEO has rightly and timely floated an idea to the ministry to start their own shipping line. We should have one own large shipping line which can cater at least 25% of the Indian exports and imports. This is very, very important. If we will not do it, the shipping line keep on doing way in their way for their benefit. They will not look our benefit. They will look their benefit. They are there to make profit. They are not there to see Indian exports to happen. And we must pass some instruction to the port. There should not be any empty container movement out of India. This is very, very important. We should strictly follow this thing. I was informed by the shipping association that some new services are going to be start. One service is for the West Africa. The MS is going to start on 24th of January. For the Europe, CMA and Costco will start some weekly services from February. The date is not known to me. Railway has cooperated with us. They requested our request, and they allowed free movement of the free of cost movement of the containers into the hinterland. We are thankful to them. I am in touch with the railway. I am in touch with the container corporation to extend the period till 31st of March. Though they have given some discount about 33%, but we are saying, sir, please continue movement of containers free of cost till the 31st of March, at least 31st March. Now, coming to the container manufacturing, there is a lot of people talking about manufacturing containers in India. The shipping lines are going to hire the containers. From where they will take the containers? They will like to buy container on economical price, lower lease. So if India can give that, then it is welcome. Otherwise, the pressure is again on the China. If we go through our total export, Indian export, the 70% of our exports are normally they are raw material or low value products. We should try to do two things. One thing is very important. We should put more value, more volume in a container. More volume, more value per container. This can help us to increase our exports. Like rice, friend, I'm not denying they should not use the containers. They should not export. If they want to export, they can use the bulk vessels. Lot of bulk vessels are available. They can together 10 exporter, 20 exporters, they can hire a vessel and they can carry their cargo in that bulk vessel. So the space on the container ships will be reduced. So this kind of the things we have to do. Actually, I suggest, sir, we should try to do some brainstorming exercise on this, how we can, manage ourselves in this scenario, because this is not going to improve in a shorter period. We have the problems. We have to find out the solution, and that solution is possible when all the stakeholders will sit together and do some brainstorming. So that is one part of that. Now I would like to thank all the panelists. Israr Bhai has set the stage, mentioning all the issues faced by the exporters. Ravindran sir highlighted problems faced by the Chennai port and how they have resolved and how they are going to make it the Chennai port more efficient. Krishnan Kumarji has highlighted the reason for the container shortage, also gave some solutions. Parsati sir about direct vessel services from the Chennai. So, Dr. Sir, our most important and my loving figure, Mr. Sivasalam sir. Sir, your points are well taken. These 6 points, what you have mentioned, are very, very important. And you rightly said, we should look on the cost of doing business. That is matching 100% with my view, sir. So I would like to thank once again all the panelists, whether I missed some names, and I would also like to thank all the participants. Dr. Ajay Sahayaji and his team with Uni Krishnan, Israr Bhai, they did a wonderful job to organize this important seminar. And I am sure all of us, all the stakeholders have been benefited with this seminar. So thank you very much from my side.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.